Ladies and gentlemen, the US government has shut down and the stock market continued to break new high. What on earth is going on? Will this continue forever? Is there risk coming? What does history tell us about US government shutdown and the impact on the stock market? Today, I will give you the full analysis, especially the part where the history will tell us what will happen. Let's watch on, shall we? Well, to start off, this is already news. The US government has shut down, and we are looking at possibly a further drag on because both the Democrats and the Trump administration doesn't want to give in to each other. So what will happen to the stock market? Let's take a chapter from US history. As usual, this content is for education and entertainment, not financial advice. Let's go. So the impossible thing has happened. Right now, on one hand, the US government has shut down, and on the other hand, Wall Street has hit record high. Well, this is very unusual because we don't expect government to shut down. So if the government were to shut down, it must be a catastrophic event, right? Well, not that really in the US case. And I know that a lot of people are wondering what the hell is going on now. We are non-Americans. When we look at this is very unusual. But in history, this has happened many, many times in US. So the Wall Street has hit record high. The S&P 500 has broke record high after record high after record high. The Dow Jones is going up. The Nasdaq is going up. How can this be possible? Let's understand this from the US perspective. First of all, what is the government shutdown? Well, the government shutdown happens when the Congress fails to pass funding to the government. And as a result, federal agency loses authorization to spend money. Well, this is not unusual. I actually didn't know that, but there are 22 federal shutdowns since 1976, 22 times. So later I'll analyze what happened to each time, but it's not that big a deal in US. As the fiscal year deadline passes, which is 1st October, it comes and go, and the longest duration for shutdown so far has been 35 days. Okay, 35 days. So that also happened during the Trump administration, and there were other days where it's pretty long as well. When a government shut down, there are a lot of services that are being halted, but not all services are being halted. But we are easily looking at hundreds of thousands of federal workers, which is civil servants by Singapore and Malaysian standard. You will realize that federal workers are just set to go home without pay. The economic cost of this shutdown in the last episode was about $11 billion, and that's quite disastrous. So why it happened this time? Well, there's some dispute between the Democrats and the Republicans. So the immigration funding is now having a dispute. The border security funding remain contentious between the two parties. Defense budget spending also have a dispute between the two parties, and tax cut proposal is now being clashed between the Trump administration and the Democrats. And debt control is having a deadlock. Neither side is willing to compromise on spending caps. So when this thing happened, the government just become crippled. Now, when I mentioned that this must not happen in Singapore, a lot of the pro-opposition, of course, make a lot of noise, but I can tell you for sure, if Singapore ever become this state, we are gone because we are too small a country. Now, US can tahan this because they are big, powerful, and the private sector is very powerful. Singapore is completely, okay, in a large majority depending on the government. And if the government goes down, the whole country goes down. Now, the scale of this government shutdown is pretty phenomenal. We're talking about 4.5 million federal workers being affected, including the military and the police. There's a lot of workers right now in US that show up for work, but they don't get any pay because their pay has been temporarily suspended, but they have to work. A lot of civilians are also affected as well. They are currently unpaid. The use of the word furloughed, okay, it simply means that they're temporarily being suspended without pay. And a lot of parks, museums, tax offices, Bureau of Labor Statistics, a lot of departments are being shut down. Now, in a government shutdown like US, it's not completely all government offices shut down. There are also still some government sectors still continue. largely the armed forces, right? Army, Navy, Marines, Air Forces, they're all on full duty. I believe their pay is actually currently being held back and they'll be back paid. Homeland Security, police, border control, border patrols, TSA, which is airport security, ICE, which is the immigration control, air traffic control, veteran healthcare, for example, all these continue to work, but I think their work without pay, okay, but when the government finally get their funding, then they'll be back paid. So who stops working completely, right? This SEC, the agency is in charge of the stock market, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Department of Statistics that issue out all the CPI numbers, the numbers for number of unemployed and things like that, NASA, space, all these are non-essentials. So right now in SEC, Security Commission, only about 400 workers out of 4,600 workers remain active. And a lot of activities like IPO, ETF launches, economic report, all these are being suspended. So what continue to operate normally is the Federal Reserve. So interest rate cuts or not will continue to go on. That's largely because the Federal Reserve has a separate funding, is completely self-funded from the Treasury operations. The FDIC, which is a Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which is set up to protect the depositors that continue to operate. Postal Services is self-operating. Social Security, private contractors, all these will still continue, but quite a lot of the public service right now is affected. So what's the immediate economic impact on US? Well, it's about 0.1% every week that the government shut down. That's the Moody's estimate. And in a 4-week impact, we are looking at $20 billion and about $400 million of daily lost wages for federal workers. And of course, consumer confidence will fall. This is not overestimating. And of course, when the government get impacted, the rest of the economy get impacted as well. I think the most significant impact to us investors is this thing called data blackout. So the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, currently right now is being paralyzed. They cannot release job reports or inflation numbers. So a lot of numbers right now that we need for the Federal Reserve to analyze the stock market, all these are being kept back. Actually, it's not that bad, the thing, right? It's being kept out of it. So, whatever trend that the trajectory that the stock market is right now will continue, and the trajectory right now is going up. So nobody knows what's going on. So the policymakers and investors are now, in some sense, flying blind. And decisions are based on gut feel, speculation, and not fundamentals right now because we don't know the fundamentals. Well, there's some consequence of missing data. Federal rate decisions are being forced to be made without this data. And nobody knows what's happening right now to the labor market. Inflation, nobody knows whether it's going up or down or stable. And market really trade on volatility and not reality right now. It is, to my opinion, not necessarily a bad thing, okay? But right now it's happening in the US, and it's a very unbelievable situation. So let me share with you some lessons from history, and this will give you a feel of how serious or how not serious the situation is. This has happened many times before. I'll give you those big ones, and later I'll give you the small ones as well. So in 1995, during the Clinton administration, there was a 21-day government shutdown, and the GDP loss of $1.4 billion. In my opinion, sub water, right? Sub soya, okay, by government standard in US. And in 2013, there was a 16-day shutdown by Obama administration. And then, of course, Trump, okay, at that point in time, has a 35-day shutdown, $11 billion, quite significant, but not catastrophic. And right now, we have got Trump in a second administration that's going on right now. So the unfortunate thing is it does affect a lot of workers, almost a million workers. This next few slides are the most critical slides in the entire deck. Let me share with you the impact. So since 1976, the US government has shut down 22 times. So let's take a look what happened to the S&P 500 upon returning from the shutdown. So 1976, the president then was Gerald Ford. I have never even heard of this president's name. After the shutdown, it was negative 0.6%. Okay. After reopening, plus 4%. After 3 months after reopening, plus 8%. All high, right? So it's just a minor market disturbance. 1977, Jimmy Carter, a very good president, 28 days shutdown, about 1.3% down. And after the opening, which one day you will open for sure, is 3.5% and about 7%. That's pretty high, right? So Jimmy Carter have a second shutdown again, okay, in 1978 and 1979. So many times, right? Down by 3%, up by 1.2%, but every time after the shutdown went up by some significant number. And to be frank, some of this impact were not necessarily caused by the government shutdown whatsoever. It's caused by other issues, right? And inflation, oil prices, blah, blah, blah. So the 1981 Reagan administration have seen it shut down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. 6 times. So, and every time, if you notice, after the shutdown, you will see after 3 months, the numbers go up by some significant number. So maybe actually shutdown is good for the stock market, right? Looking at it. But if you look at the impact of the shutdown and opening, shutdown, opening, right? Not much impact. Not much impact. 22 times, but in the Reagan administration, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times, all no impact. So during the Bush administration of 1990, there was a negative 1%, but after that, it's all rocketing up. Clinton administration, no impact, went up by about 7% after recovery. Barack Obama, 2013, didn't even went negative, went up 3.1%, and then after 1 month, 5.6, after 3 months, 7.3. Donald Trump was all positive, and then for 2 times, okay, so there was a 3-day shutdown and then a 35-day shutdown, all went up phenomenally. So Biden administration also went up. All these were happening. So bottom line is, this is the big revelation. Actually, government shutdown, no impact on the stock market. If there's anything, is positive. But I don't think that positivity can be attributed to government shutdown. But it basically says that the S&P 500 is a very powerful index, that goes up and up across the test of time and economic crisis and political crisis. So right now, as we speak, S&P 500 has gone up, and Dow Jones have gone up. The market momentum is just right now super, super strong. So I think investors this time now see this sian already, right? So they are just looking this as a short-term disturbance. The AI boom right now is phenomenally strong, and it's driving the entire stock market up and all the sentiments. The corporate earnings remain strong, and right now it's just a train that has left the station and really going strong. So why has the stock market ignored this government crisis? Well, everybody is looking forward to the federal rate cut. If government data cannot come out, the Federal Reserve have to base on other data. And my guess is other data will tell the Federal Reserve that you should cut the interest rate. And the tech profits are at some insane level, and the market momentum is just super strong. So we know that the stock market, after looking at so many history, does rise phenomenally after government shutdown is being rectified. So the investors and the analysts can see that as well. So that is why we are looking at the stock market still going strong. The bigger issue is AI bubble, which I had a video. You all should go and watch it a day ago. So right now, we now have a very strong concentration risk of the Max 7. And OpenAI valuations have just shoot to some insane level. So I think this is a bigger concern. I wish I could time it such a way that exactly at the peak of the AI bubble, I sell it, and then each bubble, come down, and then I buy back again. But who can be so true, right? So this one is a concern, and I already give my advice to everybody what you should do about it in a previous video. By the way, government shutdowns are not unique to US. In in China, there are provincial government shutdowns, and that's quite common. They held back salaries of government workers and things like that. This is actually quite a common phenomenon in US. Meanwhile, at this juncture, there's a global ripple impact. The gold has hit record high. My goodness, man. I can't believe the gold prices is just going up and up. And the dollar continued to weaken because of the shutdown. And the Asian market right now is rallying, maybe a substitution effect. So at this juncture, what you should do, right? Well, my take is that this is not that big a crisis. History has shown that there's recovery once the government reopens, and they will reopen. It has happened 22 times since 1976. So it should not be a surprise. This might be a time where Trump take an opportunity to clean house, right? Cut some of the necessary costs. And so I think it's not necessarily a bad thing for the US government. And my take is that, those who are holding on to liquidity, maybe you want to just hold on to some level of defensive position so that you have got some reserves. I always say, and I say again, diversify globally. Okay. I cannot tell you which country going, what stock to buy. MAS will invite me to drink coffee, but I think diversification across many assets and many countries remain a wisdom. And I wouldn't take the bet that quickly buy now and then when the government reopens, it go up, we sell. No, that's too speculative. So I would rather hold long term and just let it compound. So at this juncture, uncertainty is the only certainty. Don't overreact. History tells you if you just hang on and just let time pass and let compounding take its course, you will do very well. So let's watch on. Okay, let's analyze the situation. I know I owe everyone a live stream, but I'm pretty busy and pretty frozen in Europe right now, as you can see. Got lots of work to do. I'll try my best to catch up with my live stream, but thank you for waiting for me. And I'll see you in a day or two. Okay, bye-bye.